Good evening, I'm Wendy Mesley, and this is The National. A boost to the Canada Child Benefit Plan is in the works. What it could entail. Human remains are found on a BC farm in an area where multiple women are missing. They came from Britain but sank in Canada. Now we know who gets to keep the doomed ships of the Franklin expedition.
It's an important part of our history.
Plus, how do you build a highway on this? Briar Stewart takes us on a new northern road, but there are a few bumps along the way.
Yeah, that is what.
The Canada Child Benefit Plan has been touted as a Liberal success story, and CBC News has learned the government intends to double down on that success. In tomorrow's fall fiscal update, the Finance Minister will announce plans to boost the benefit. David Cochrane broke the story for us and joins me now from Ottawa. So, David, what have you learned?
Well, Wendy, what we've learned is CBC News has learned that a boost to the Canada Child Benefit will be the centerpiece of a series of new spending measures aimed at helping middle-class and working-class Canadians that will be announced Tuesday as part of the fiscal update. Now, the specific details of the boost won't be rolled out until later in the week, so it isn't clear at this point whether this is a straight bump in the size of the checks that parents get each month or whether this is a move to index these benefits to inflation a few years earlier than promised. But what is clear is this is a signature policy of this government, one that they are quite proud of, and one that people like the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Stephen Poloz, has praised for really helping to boost the economy and also for giving a base level of income to families to help people, especially women, pay for things like childcare or get a second car so they can transition back into the workforce. So expect the Liberals to seize on that message and also to reinforce that this and the other measures they're going to announce are designed to ensure that Canadians are sharing equally in the country's solid economic performance.
It's been a very challenging few weeks for the government, Finance Minister in particular. So, David, is this announcement enough to change track?
Well, you know, nobody needs a good news day quite as much as Bill Morneau, and he has a chance to get that tomorrow because the fiscal update should be good news for him. The economy is up, jobs are up, revenue is up, the deficit is down. The challenge is that the deficit isn't gone, and the fiscal update may not show us exactly when it will disappear. And boosting child benefits, well, that's going to cost at least several $1 billion. So this will be something that the opposition, especially the Conservatives, will seize on. It's been weeks of attacks over the ethics of Morneau's personal fortune, his villa in France, his big retreat on his controversial tax reforms. And, you know, to borrow a line from the Liberals, there are governments with balanced budgets and those working hard to join them. We know the Liberals don't fit into that first group. We'll find out with the fiscal update whether they fit into that second group. If they do not, expect the opposition Conservatives to pounce if Bill Morneau does not have a plan to balance the books while he's got a hot economy.
Thanks so much, David.
Yeah.
David Cochrane. A community in British Columbia's interior is rattled and on edge tonight after police made a grim discovery on a farm. The RCMP found human remains this weekend on a property south of Salmonarm. Officers are now also searching a rural area about 15 kilometers to the north. Police won't say much about their investigation, but a number of women have gone missing from the area. Our Briar Stewart is in Salmonarm tonight.
RCMP officers comb ditches along this road and are focused on this acreage in BC's Okanagan. It was here where they found human remains over the weekend, a grisly discovery that's led to a large police presence and uneasy neighbors.
It makes you very nervous and you don't sleep well at night, so you're up every couple hours.
The search at this property started here last week, but this area was the site of an investigation that started over the summer. Police say a woman came to this area in August to meet up with a man that she connected with on a website used by escorts. The woman said when she arrived, she was threatened with a gun, but managed to get away. Earlier this month, police put out a warning to the public and to sex trade workers, and shortly after, an arrest was made. Curtis Wayne Sagmawin faces numerous charges, including firearms offenses. A search warrant was executed on a property belonging to his family, and the remains were found. There are few details. Police won't say if they have a suspect, and so far no charges have been laid in relation to the remains. But there is plenty of anxiety and fear.
It's a really horrible thing to see people, face.
Jody Leon says a number of women have disappeared from the Salmonarm area, including 3 who who went missing within a few months of each other in 2016.
The fact that, all the women, who are missing are within such close proximity of each other, it leaves a, feeling of real unrest.
Two of the women, Deanna Wirtz and Ashley Simpson, were neighbors living on a street that runs parallel to the road where police are now investigating. Simpson, originally from St. Catharines, Ontario, was last seen in April 2016.
I think that something bad has happened to my sister. I don't really know what, but we still have hope, I guess, that she'll come home. But I don't think the outcome is going to be that.
For now, the families of the missing wait for any kind of news about the remains. Police expect to continue their search in the area for most of the week. Briar Stewart, CBC News, near Salmonarm, BC.
One of the biggest names in Quebec's entertainment industry is accusing the founder of the Just for Laughs festival of sexual misconduct. Julie Snyder filed a sexual assault complaint against Gilbert Rozon last night. 10 other women have already come forward. In the wake of the allegations, Rozon stepped down as president of the comedy festival last week. There are new questions about how effective Canada's military justice system has been at prosecuting sexual assaults. Despite a long-running campaign within the armed forces to make positive change, new figures collected by CBC News reveal a troublingly low conviction rate. Murray Brewster has the details.
It's been a mission of the military for months.
Harmful sexual behavior is a real problem in our institution. We know it. We're trying to tackle it head on.
And it's a message we keep hearing over and over.
Mr. Speaker, we will not stop until sexual misconduct is stomped out of the Canadian Armed Forces.
There has been a deluge of sexual assault charges in the military. But what happens once they hit military court? CBC News has run the numbers. Between April 2014 and March 2017, 17 soldiers were tried before military courts on sexual assault charges. 4 were found guilty, 8 not guilty. Other charges were stayed or withdrawn. The conviction rate, 23%, and that is well below the civilian conviction rate.
The rate of conviction tells us that people were found either guilty or not guilty, or they were found guilty of a lesser charge. The system's actually working.
Stephanie Raymond's case sparked the crackdown on sexual misconduct. For her and other alleged victims, not guilty verdicts are more than just statistics. They are personal and carry a powerful message.
The message sent is that the victim, do not report the crime.
Victims do have the option of having their case tried in the civilian system. For some experts, that's not much better.
I would characterize the civilian court system as a disaster for women. Very, very few women come forward to report to the police.
More often than not, alleged offenders in the military have pleaded to or been found guilty of the lesser administrative charge of disgraceful conduct. That, says the military, is punishment for an offender. But is it changing behavior? Remember, that was the goal set out by the Chief of Defence Staff.
What remains to be seen is if there is a trickle-down effect, if there is the ability to hold his subordinates accountable for leadership in each of their units, whether they're going to take these complaints of inappropriate sexual behavior seriously.
Military prosecutors are now consulting with victims before making plea deals. They're also getting better training by speaking with victims of horrific sexual crimes, something the prosecutors themselves say is making them more empathetic. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada has officially been gifted a piece of nautical history over 170 years old. In 1845, the Franklin expedition set out to chart the fabled Northwest Passage through the treacherous Canadian Arctic, only to meet disaster and death. The long search to find those doomed ships captivated the national imagination. And now, after a decision in London, Canadians can marvel over them for years to come. Margot McDermott explains.
2 brass 6-pounder cannon.
It was a spectacular find. In 2014, Canadian archaeologists found the long-lost ship Erebus in the Arctic water near King William Island. 2 years later, the team found a second ship, Terror. discovered with the help of a local Inuit hunter and guide who'd seen a wooden mast sticking out of the water. Invaluable relics from John Franklin's doomed 1845 expedition that disappeared while looking for the Northwest Passage, both owned by Britain until today.
We think this is extraordinarily important.
Britain says it's giving the ships Erebus and Terror to Canada. This exceptional arrangement will recognize the historical significance of the Franklin expedition to the people of Canada and will ensure that these wrecks and artifacts are conserved for future generations. They will be jointly shared between the federal and Nunavut governments that have argued over them for years.
I think it's very important that Canada has joint ownership with Inuit, who played a very important role in finding these wrecks.
This Arctic sovereignty expert is relieved, warning Canada could have easily lost those ships. Last year, the Norwegians reclaimed the wreck of the Maud, the first ship to sail through the Northwest Passage, towing it back to Europe from Cambridge Bay.
You could conceivably have the British coming over, and very much the way that they've raised some of their historic wrecks, the Mary Rose and out around their waters, and attempted to take the ships back.
In a deal that's still being negotiated, Canada gets to keep most of the artifacts, but the British aren't budging on Her Majesty's gold.
There are certain artifacts that, when it comes to bodies potentially or bullion, that those would be artifacts that are very important to be recovered by the UK government.
Gold bullion aside, this means that Canada alone can decide what to do with the historic ships and the crucial next step, future research into an enduring Arctic mystery. What really happened on board those vessels, and why did 129 people die? Margaret McDermott, CBC News, Ottawa.
Coming up, Bob Rae talks about his new post as special envoy to Myanmar. And a new northern highway is fueling dreams.
I want to open a restaurant.
And fear.
I'm worried about our people losing our cultural base.
The challenge of connecting Canada from sea to sea to sea. Over the last week, Donald Trump hasn't missed an opportunity to defend a phone call he made to the family of a soldier killed in action. Today was no different. Trump quickly disputed claims made by the soldier's widow in her first television interview. All this as questions swirl over the circumstances surrounding his death in Niger. Paul Hunter has the story.
For Donald Trump, it's somehow come to this. 4 American soldiers killed this month when a counter-terrorism training operation in Niger went wrong, and with the family of one of them, LaDavid Johnson, the president has seemingly put himself in an ever uglier public spat. Today, Johnson's widow recounted the condolence call she got last week from Trump.
The president said that he knew what he signed up for, but it hurts anyways. And it made me cry because I was very angry at the tone of his voice and how he said it.
Adding Trump stumbled in trying to remember her husband's name.
And that what hurt me the most, because if my husband is out here fighting for our country and he risks his life for our country, why can't you remember his name?
After that interview aired today, Trump countered on Twitter that he was respectful and indeed spoke his name. This after a perplexing back and forth last week when the tone of Trump's call was first challenged by a friend of the Johnson family, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, a Democrat.
He signed up to die? You don't say that. You don't say that to a grieving widow.
Trump, in turn, called the Congresswoman wacky. The White House labeled her appalling and disgusting. But there's more. In Today, affirming Trump's tone on that call, Johnson's widow also said she wasn't even allowed to see her husband's body.
I don't know how he got killed, where he got killed, or anything.
The U.S. military is investigating what happened in Niger, where the U.S. now has some 800 troops, today pledging answers for all involved.
I think we do owe the families and the American people transparency in incidents like this, and we intend to deliver just that.
But the other mystery is Trump, and why he seems unable to make amends with a family in mourning. in the Rose Garden today. Reporters sought more details on all of it.
Can you tell the public what happened in Niger?
He didn't answer. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The bodies of 67 civilians have been found in a Syrian town recaptured by government forces over the weekend. The region's governor says some of the people were killed during the battle to retake the town from ISIS. Others were executed. More than 100 people from the town are still missing. It's believed they were either kidnapped or killed. The federal government has named former Ontario Premier Bob Rae to the newly created post of Canada's special envoy to Myanmar. It's part of Ottawa's response to the worsening Rohingya refugee crisis. But while Rae brings a wealth of political experience, he has no illusions about the challenges of this new role.
It's a difficult pattern that has been established in Myanmar for a very long period of time. They've been in a civil crisis, in a state of civil conflict and military conflict for a very, very long time.
Rae will travel to the region next week, where he hopes to meet as many officials from Myanmar and Bangladesh as possible. He'll then write an independent report on the crisis for the Prime Minister, which will be made public. As envoy, Bob Rae will certainly have his work cut out for him dealing with Myanmar's divided government. Aung San Suu Kyi is the civilian head of state, but the military still holds much of the real political power. We asked our Nala Ayed for some context into the current state of affairs.
It's rare that we get to hear directly from ambassadors on what they do on the ground, but I had an interview with Ambassador Karen MacArthur in which we discussed her recent visits to the Rakhine State. Here's her describing what she saw from a helicopter.
Village after village, blackened, destroyed, emptied of people, not a single person, not an animal to be seen.
Now, there was some controversy about that particular visit because it was a tightly choreographed tour put on by the authorities for 20 diplomats based in the country. But in the interview, MacArthur said that the complexity of the situation in Myanmar is one of the reasons that it was so important for her to see for herself and speak to the various communities there. The ambassador was also clear that Canada is committed to working with Myanmar's leaders. All this points to Ottawa sticking with engagement on dealing with Myanmar on the Rohingya crisis. That might include once in a while a rebuke or tough talk, as we've heard from Ottawa, but for the moment, it's about keeping the conversation going. Now, that strategy was evident today in the appointment of Bob Rae as special envoy to Myanmar, whose final report isn't even due until the end of January. It was also evident in the comments from the Global Affairs Minister, Chrystia Freeland. She was quite clear that a drastic rupture, like revoking Aung San Suu Kyi's honorary citizenship, as some Canadians have been calling for, is not on the table for the moment. Now, the ambassador told me that what is on the table is helping Myanmar in the transition to democracy and dealing with that fear and distrust among people. But for now, making the Rohingya crisis the priority. That means working with the Myanmar authorities, civilian and military, to end the violence that has now displaced more than 600,000 people and to improve the lives of Rohingya who remain. Nala Ayed, CBC News, London.
And that is what's on the agenda for Canada's new special envoy to Myanmar. My conversation with Bob Rae is up next. Stay with us.
This story that when you were a kid, your parents wouldn't let you watch television except for the news. This is true?
Well, there was a period, now mom and dad are kind of saying, now that it's come to the point, they're saying, we let you watch TV. Stop telling people we didn't let you. But there was this big period where everyone's marks were so miserable, that the TV just went away and it went in a closet and you were only allowed to watch the one show. So yeah, I didn't get to watch a lot of shows. And then I wasn't allowed to watch The Incredible Hulk. They thought that would give me nightmares.
You really checked out of high school at 17?
No, I didn't. I just my academic career just didn't work out that well. So I should have gone back, and I didn't.
That's not the same as quitting. I didn't go back.
I didn't go back one day when I was supposed to, and I didn't go back one day. Yeah. But I regret that. That was pretty stupid.
Must have been.
Couldn't have been that hard, I mean, grade 10 math,
Well, you must
I'm sure if I really applied
This had to be a problem for Mommy and Daddy. They must have been disappointed.
Yeah, I guess they were a little bit disappointed about that. No, at that point they had 2 through.
So they figured
2 through grade 12, I guess they figured, oh well.
You can't win them all.
You know, can't win them all, I suppose. I guess that's what they figured. I don't know. Think it'll be in the contract? A helmet. Might be.
Gerald Lunds has been Mercer's producer for over a decade, and he still remembers exactly what it was that impressed him the first time he saw Mercer perform.
Because he was saying everything that everybody was thinking, but nobody was saying. And it was full of young man energy, you know, and anger, which is really an important thing in terms of his writing. And it was funny, and it was astute.
If you've missed him, you've probably been out of town, because he is everywhere. Comedy and award shows, 2 TV programs, and between the covers of a book, and a new comedy series he's writing and will star in, called Made in Canada.
Earlier, Nella Ayed told us how the Canadian government calls the Rohingya refugee crisis ethnic cleansing. So far, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has resisted pressure to revoke Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi's honorary Canadian citizenship. That stance has provoked some criticism. But today, a big announcement: Bob Rae will now front Canada's efforts at finding a solution as Canada's special envoy to Myanmar. So what is he in for? Bob Rae joins me from Ottawa. So welcome, Mr. Rae. Not the easiest of assignments.
No, it's a challenge, but I think it's important for Canada, and I think it's, frankly, I think it's important for everybody to put their shoulder to the wheel on this issue. It's an enormous tragedy which is evolving and changing every day. We really have to up our game and get more involved and more engaged.
Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi, she hasn't been able to stop the slaughter by her own military in her own country. She's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. If she can't stop the attacks, what do you think you can do?
Well, it's really about making sure that we have the most up-to-date information, that we're sharing that information within government and with the Canadian people, that we're working with all of our like-minded countries, with those in the neighborhood. There's a humanitarian crisis facing Bangladesh. There's a serious civil conflict underway in Myanmar, which I think is not fully understood, needs to be more widely understood. And we've got to do everything we can to help. I mean, Canada has, I think, traditionally always seen itself as a country that's ready to respond. And certainly my conversation with the Prime Minister today, he was absolutely deadly serious about saying he wanted us to take a lead. He wanted us to take a role. And so I'll do whatever I can. I'm certainly not, as many people in the media know, I'm not a miracle worker, but we certainly can do more, and we can do it better, and we can do everything possible to make sure that we're working together effectively in the world to deal with the extent of this tragedy.
Can you give me perhaps more of a concrete sense of what you're actually hoping to do there?
Well, I think, first of all, we can do a lot more collectively to make sure that the living conditions in the camp are tolerable. And we need to bring more attention to what's happening in the camp, and the fact that it is now the largest refugee camp anywhere in the world, that it's growing in numbers, and that the size and dimensions of this thing have to be more widely appreciated. The government announced today that it's doing more. I'm sure that there will have to be more coming, not only from Canada, but from a whole bunch of other countries. So that's on the immediate issue as it affects the refugees. We then need to deal with the extent of the challenge inside Myanmar. And that, again, is going to require gathering as much information as we possibly can and working with other countries to get the government of Myanmar to fully appreciate the extent to which it is outside right now the norms of any international behavior.
It's been argued that the strongest message that Canada could send here would be to revoke Suu Kyi's honorary Canadian citizenship. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to, in a sense, I'm going to duck that question because it really is one that's in front of the government is going to have to deal with that question, and I think it's going to be up to Parliament as well to make a decision about that. I think it's fair to say that when the honorary citizenships were created, there wasn't a lot of attention paid to, well, what do we do if we decide to revoke one of these things? There's no process particularly for it. I think we need to gather more information and be satisfied with respect to what exactly is the role that she's playing inside the government. What information is she provided with? What is she able to do in her circumstance? I don't know the answers to those questions yet. I hope to have a better idea in the course of my report. I'm to report to the PM in 2 weeks when I see him next in Vietnam, and I'll have a wider report for the Canadian public at the end of January, because I will be returning to the region at least a couple of times, as well as meeting with people at the UN in New York and in Geneva, and as many Canadians as I can, to talk about what ordinary Canadians can do to deal with the extent of this crisis.
You say you want to duck the question, but you are the envoy. Do you disagree that that's the wrong way to send a message?
I think it's important for me to, at the beginning of a mission, Wendy, is not to make too many conclusions before I even start my work. Let's just say that's, I'm sure, something the Canadian government is going to continue to reflect on, and I think it's important for us to focus our attention on everything we can do as a country. That's positive in nature. There's a lot of positive things that need to be done. I'm not sure symbolic gestures are really going to go very far. I think it's much more important for us to deal with the substance of the issues in front of us. A humanitarian crisis, a serious military and civil conflict in Myanmar itself, and the need for the country, for us to help in a process of peace building which needs to take place both within Myanmar and between Myanmar and its neighbors.
So you're going to Myanmar soon. You're going to visit the camps. Will you be able to go beyond? Will you be able to see what's happened in Rakhine State? And if you do, you'll just be escorted by the military. Won't you just see what they want you to see?
Well, you can't go into Rakhine State without being escorted. That's a reality. What exactly will be the circumstances of what I'll be allowed to do and see, I don't know. I was there 4 months ago in the south. I did have lots of meetings in Yangon and in the capital, Naypyidaw. And I believe very strongly that we have a lot of basic information coming out of Rakhine State. We have a lot of NGOs that are still working on the ground. There are text messages and cell phones and lots of information that's getting out. None of it's good. It's all very, very difficult. Some of it is quite frightening, actually. And we need to work much, much harder at making sure that people are safe inside Myanmar and that people are safe inside the camp.
Quite a daunting task. Thanks so much, Mr. Ray.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's got to be done. Thank you. Appreciate it, Wendy.
Coming up next on The National, small town, big change.
A new beginning is coming.
A new permanent highway north is a feat of engineering. But what will it do to this isolated community? And Rosemary Barton talks to the new U.S. ambassador to Canada.
The president says, as he said many, many times, that NAFTA should be terminated. Should we believe him?
But first, a look at the day's business numbers. The TSX was down a point. The dollar fell more than 1/4 cent. In New York, the Dow lost 54 points. The price of oil closed up 6 cents a barrel.
The National with Milton Nash.
Good evening and welcome to rainy Vancouver and Expo 86.
The province they call supernatural is ready. They've been drilling, painting, cleaning, and checking all week.
I think everyone's relatively calm.
There's everything here, from the world's biggest flagpole to the world's biggest hockey stick and the world's biggest hockey puck.
You never know what you'll see next, and you never know who you're going to meet next. There's the mascot of the fair, Expo Ernie.
Well, bless my little robotic heart. Noel Nash and the crew from the National. How do you do? Glad to have you here.
Expo is a fair about transportation, so this state-of-the-art monorail was a natural. For the first 2 months, it kept breaking down, but now it's carrying capacity crowds.
The sun shone for the first time in weeks in Vancouver today, and with the sun, Expo 86 came alive. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people got to see the fair for the first time. Being Saturday, it was a big day for the children. And for children, what counts at a fair is the fun. There was no shortage of that.
just great. It's bringing the whole country together, too.
$5,000 is spent every night by Expo for a computerized laser and fireworks show. It's called International Nights of Fire.
We've never seen fireworks like that before. Oh, that was awesome.
At 86th Street, they party with the Powder Blues Band, and they obey the rules to eat, drink, and go crazy. When they first opened, these nightclubs had so many customers, things sometimes got out of hand. So extra doormen were hired. Proper dress is now required. The people who don't like dress codes still have a place to go, though. At the Irish pub, there doesn't seem to be any code at all.
Expo has done itself proud. That's great. They did well. I enjoyed myself like no other time.
It's the best thing that ever happened to British Columbia and to me.
I love it. I've had a great time here.
When we said in the House of Commons that was the most ridiculous policy ever, then if you will just wait, the truth will be given to you.
To unfurl a flag that is truly distinctive and truly national in character, as Canadian as the maple leaf on your badge.
When the cavalcade rolled up to a stage where Trudeau was to make remarks in support of the local candidates, he was confronted by sign-carrying hecklers again, this time protesting high unemployment. Trudeau's response, as it has been throughout this campaign, was to fight back.
Yeah, we saw you last night with your painted and hired signs and your hired friends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of you holding signs like little boys. Come on, go and look for some jobs.
No, you're lost without your nose.
This lady just wouldn't give up and kept up a barrage of one-liners throughout the speech.
Are you running as a rhinoceros or as a liberal? Eh?
No rah-rah speeches. The truth.
Mulroney was frequently interrupted by a large and unusually provocative group of hecklers, most of them striking workers at the Gainers meatpacking plant in Edmonton. Mulroney appealed for calm, didn't get it, and didn't like it.
You can yell and you can scream all you want. I've fought bigger and better people than you, and I'll do it again.
As the Prime Minister continued toward his car, he came face to face with one of the demonstrators. Suddenly, Chrétien took the man by the back of the neck. His other hand was over the protester's mouth. He pushed him aside. Seconds later, another protester approached the Prime Minister. Chrétien knocked over the bullhorn that was in his hand.
But he was right in front of me, shouting and trying to block my way, so I took him out.
What do you hope that the road brings for Tuck?
Freedom.
It's today's version of the national dream, that quest from Confederation times to unite what was then Canada. Now, instead of a railway, it's a permanent road from coast to coast to coast, and the dream is about to turn into reality. In a few weeks, the final 137-kilometre stretch of the highway between Inuvik and Tuktoyaktuk will open, allowing people to drive to the shores of the Arctic Ocean. But we can take you for a ride there tonight. Here's Briar Stewart.
Along the shores of the Arctic Ocean, the rhythmic sound of the Selamute drummers and dancers. They sing about the stories and traditions of the Inuvialuit. This song is called Bringing Back the Sun, and it's about a community gathering after a long, dark winter. Tuktoyaktuk is remote and isolated, hard to get to and hard to leave, but that's all about to change. What do you think of the road?
Well, I think it's very positive for the people and for stores and opening to the world, better than being isolated.
My late father, he was the first one to dump a load of gravel onto the highway. So I always thought that he made history, and that is because that's a beginning. A new beginning is coming.
And it lies beyond these gates, a $300 million road that will permanently connect Tuktoyaktuk to the rest of Canada. For now, it's still closed to the public, but we got a chance to drive the 140-kilometer route as crews finished building it.
We are expecting to open the highway November 15, 2017.
For nearly 4 years, Dean Ahmed has been overseeing construction of the highway. It runs from Inuvik to Tuk and crosses coastal plains teeming with lakes and streams which are frozen for most of the year.
Very few highways have been built in the Arctic Circle. And it is quite challenging, but there have been initially a learning curve where all of us needed to adapt and acquaint ourselves with the challenges. So in that sense, it's unique and it's quite exciting that way.
This road has been somewhat of an experiment because only a few have been built in this type of environment. Dozens of temperature monitors have been installed deep underground to ensure the areas that support bridges stay frozen. But it's the surface that's causing the biggest challenges. You can see how spongy the ground is. Just below the surface is permafrost. And when the top layer melts, it causes the earth to shift, making it very difficult to build on. So most of the construction was done during the winter months when the ground was completely frozen. Crews worked in shifts around the clock when frigid temperatures and little daylight were the norm. Ahmed says the traditional way of building a road where sections are cut and filled is not an option here.
One of the characteristics of the design of this project is that you cannot disturb the tundra.
So geotextile fabric was used to protect and insulate the permafrost, and then loads of gravel and rocks were layered on top. It made for a bumpy ride when we were escorted up the still closed-off highway. Crews hadn't yet smoothed out this section. We weren't even halfway through our trip. Yeah, that is flat. When one of our front tires decided it had had enough.
It did not make it up to Tuk. The road won this round.
We would have to make do driving on a spare for the rest of the trip. We were the only visitors on the road. As we drove, we passed trucks and heavy equipment building some of the final sections. At the peak of the construction, more than 400 people were working on the highway.
We're going to start our 12-hour shift at 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. we'll finish.
Kevin Saint-Amand drives a rock truck now, but used to operate a plow on the ice road. Each winter, the frozen route offered residents a way out of Tuk. It was the only alternative to taking a flight to Inuvik, which can cost hundreds of dollars each way. But now a year-round, all-season road has Saint-Amand mulling a new career path.
I want to open a restaurant somewhere. Halfway, from Tuk to Inuvik, there's a halfway point. And, there's going to be people that are wanting to stop all over the place. So have some French fries halfway there.
Perhaps it's still more of a dream than a legitimate business plan, but it is part of a larger conversation taking place here. Once the road is built and the construction jobs are gone, what's next? Because the reality of the road now is much different than when it was first proposed.
The last step in completing the dream of McDonald and Diefenbaker, the dream to see all Canadians linked from coast to coast to coast.
When the federal government committed to funding 2/3 of the highway in 2013, Stephen Harper was Prime Minister. The focus then was on Arctic sovereignty and resources. Today in Tuk, boarded up work camps and rusting equipment are remnants of a busier time when companies explored offshore for oil and gas. Many hoped the new highway would revive a stalled industry, but that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. Low energy prices mean companies aren't investing in the Arctic, and last year the Liberal government put in place a moratorium on new offshore drilling in the region.
So every now and then I get a whack of these. Who are they, you know?
All of it, Nellie Cornier says, is forcing Tuck to change and adapt. She served as the premier of the Northwest Territories in the 1990s and was a longtime chair of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation, which focuses on improving life and creating new economic opportunities for those who live here.
People are still here. People want to work. People need jobs.
In Tuck, the unemployment rate is 30%. With the highway unlikely to be a road to resources, the hope now is that it can bring in more tourists.
I have no doubt in my mind we're going to survive, and we're going to adapt. We did it before, and we're going to do it now. We're going to try our very, very best to show Tuktoyaktuk as one of a destination point.
Each week during the summer, a few dozen adventurous tourists make the trek up here by boat and plane.
How was the boat ride? Wonderful. Had a great time.
Most normally stay for a few hours, time to take a few photos and dip their toes in the Arctic Ocean.
It's me. That's awesome. It's cold, but it's awesome.
It's like 15 degrees.
Yeah.
Kailik Kisoon Taylor runs day tours 3 days a week from Inuvik. He markets his trips as a journey into the inaccessible, but the new road will change that.
There's going to be a lot more traffic coming to Tuck, 100 times more than there is right now, because it's just the tank of gas to come up.
The question now is just what is there to do once people get here? There are few places to stay, no restaurants to eat at, and very little infrastructure to lure tourists.
I'm hoping that some people will be organized enough to have something here for people, so when they come, it's not just to dip their toe and then turn around and go back. You want people to stay for at least a day or two, overnight, stay, eat your food, shop at your stores, So hopefully that will happen.
For now, the community is looking at creating a campground. New benches have been set up along the shore, and the hamlet is getting spruced up. Cans of paint were donated, and local workers like Stanley Felix have been hired to paint homes.
I never thought I'd be working for community beautification or anything like that before. I painted houses when I was younger, but not like this.
So far, they've painted 14 buildings. Felix hopes the bright colors give homeowners a bit of a lift. As for the road, his feelings are mixed.
Concerned, but at the same time excited. So it'd be a good opportunity for a lot of our people in the community to look at different avenues, like maybe tourism.
So what are your concerns about it?
Oh, hard drugs. That scares me. I know there's going to be a bit more alcohol, and that's a concern.
I guess you're just worried that it'll be easier to bring that stuff in now.
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier. Like any other community that never had a road and then got a road and then everything changed. I'm worried about our people losing our cultural base, our footing, where we come from and how we got here.
But for all of the trepidation about what the new road could open Tuck up to, there is excitement, a lot of it. People are hoping the highway will bring down the high food prices in the grocery store. And if it doesn't, it will at least make it easier for people to be able to stock up elsewhere. But it's this group that will experience the biggest change.
Edward, could you push me high?
Nearly 30% of the population here is under the age of 15, and they will grow up in a community that will soon be less isolated. Joe Nazagalawak sees that as the greatest benefit, because he knows what it's like to feel as if you're cut off from the rest of the world. What do you hope that the road brings for Tuck?
Freedom.
Today, he's a renowned carver, but when he was a teenager, he went to Toronto for a 2-week student exchange. The experience altered how he saw his community.
When I came back, I felt really isolated. Felt I'd never get out of this town, or, at that time, you grew up with no money. You're just making a living, surviving. And to myself, I thought that, we're so isolated, I think.
In many ways, life is very different now. Long gone are the days with no running water or flush toilets. Today, he and his family live comfortably in a home where there's always plenty of music and time for tea.
Try that song for tonight.
As a father, Nazagalowak wants his children to thrive, and he's eager for them to be able to experience the outside world much more than he did while growing up.
To me, I think that's the greatest thing that happened in Tuk in my lifetime. The young people will grow up feeling more with confidence. It'll take generations, but you will see that they will grow up feeling like we're tied in the other world. My kids are excited, make them excited, so they could know that it's not a danger. We got to accept it with open arms and say we have a road and be happy about it.
Because regardless of what this road does or does not bring to Tuktoyaktuk, it will change life for the 900 people who live here, connecting the community and the Arctic coast to the rest of the country in a way it's never been before. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Tuktoyaktuk.
Up next, Rosemary Barton sits down with a new U.S. ambassador to Canada, Kelly Kraft, on NAFTA and climate change. Stay with us.
In Toronto today, nearly 1,000 women gathered. Women from kitchens, offices, factories, and schools.
We know very well that we're at the bottom of the economic and the political pile, but not for long.
International Women's Day commemorates an angry rebellion by women sweatshop workers in New York who walked off the job to win decent wages and working conditions. Today, the women's goals and demands are just as pointed.
There's no excuse in the world for us earning 60% of what men earn. That's an intolerable situation.
As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day.
Is it frustrating to you that a lot of people are simply not aware that today is International Women's Day? A lot of women are not aware.
Well, sometimes it is frustrating, but on the other hand, the celebrations have been growing from year to year. I mean, to have 5,000 or 6,000 people out in the street in Toronto is quite a feat, let me tell you.
For participants, the demonstration is a declaration of hope and belief that a different kind of society is possible. They're here because they don't accept that women are naturally inferior, passive, and submissive. They don't believe women are born to be dependent. They don't think women are emotionally unstable, unable to make their own decisions.
20 years ago, graduates grappled with the idea of careers. These young women assume they'll have careers and more.
I want to try and have it all. I'd like to have an education and a job that I'm happy with.
We're not as radical, we're more equalist. Yeah. Like many young women today, these students say they're not feminists. On this International Women's Day, which celebrates the efforts of women to build a better world, they believe that world is here already.
Pop superstar Alanis Morissette's homecoming is a big deal, if not a bit overwhelming for the city that knew her when. You can forgive the good people of Ottawa for not seeing it. They remember Morissette as a teenage dance queen with big hair and frosted lipstick who sang at the mall. Today, at her first press conference since she unveiled her new look, sound, and record, Jagged Little Pill, Morissette was asked to explain what happened to the dance queen.
You know, the biggest changes that I went through personally were between the ages of 16 and 21, and I think it's inevitable it's going to come out in your music, so.
Despite some people's confusion at her radical musical makeover, Ottawa's mayor proclaimed today Alanis Morissette Day and handed over the key to the city.
This just sort of represents that the city that I grew up in, that I went through so many things in, is something that I don't want to really put in my past, really. I just want to make a peace with where I came from, and,
I'm apprehensive to accept an Alanis Morissette day. I'll take an Alanis Morissette moment.
She says her musical priorities and motives have completely changed.
Over the last 4 years, just learned how to write for my own reasons and write for myself. And as I said, it's pretty ironic that the moment I started doing that was the moment that most people related to it.
Surely there is no better posting than Canada.
That's Kelly Kraft. Today, she presented her credentials to the Governor General and started her new job as U.S. Ambassador to Canada. She's a former Republican fundraiser and the wife of a billionaire coal magnate. She is also the first woman to serve in the post. Rosemary Barton sat down with Kelly Kraft this afternoon. They talked about two critical issues for Canadians.
I represent the President of the United States. He also has only the best interest of the American people. Therefore, he will make his decision based upon what is the best interest of the United States.
But if this is part of what he's thinking, we should prepare ourselves. We should have a plan B, just in case.
I believe that the President's decision is going to be based upon what's best for the economy and the safety and security of the American people, and also making sure that our borders are open and that, you know, being from Kentucky, Canada is our #1 trade partner, so I have a real interest at making certain that this border that we see in Kentucky is very thin and becomes thinner. You know, there's good sciences on both issues, and I believe that we are committed to our environment. Obviously, there are a lot of people on this earth, and that is going to be a result of some of the damages to the planet. Mm-hmm. But I know that the President and all of the Cabinet has the best interest of what is good for the United States and what is good for our environment.
Obviously, the approach is different. We've stayed in the Paris Agreement. The President has decided to pull out. How do you navigate that when there's such a different approach to fighting climate change?
Well, I think that the approach may seem different, but we all have the same goal, and that is to better our environment and to maintain the environment. Therefore, I feel like our administration has been on top of this regardless of whether or not they would be pulling out.
So they can still fight climate change even if they're not part of the agreement?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you yourself believe in climate change?
I believe there are sciences that are on both sides that are accurate.
You believe that there's science that proves that man is not causing climate change?
Well, I think that both sides have, they have their own results from their studies, and I appreciate and I respect both sides of the science.
That was the new U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Kelly Kraft, speaking to Rosemary Barton this afternoon. Your bank may be outsourcing jobs to contract workers overseas, along with your personal information. One bank employee sounds the alarm next.
I'm Anna Maria Tremonti. Tomorrow on The Current, in bringing medical care to Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh's makeshift camps, Dr. Nabia Islam started making tent calls. Her insights about the refugee crisis on The Current, weekdays at 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
Without teen dancer and Alpha, it would have been a boring town. People would here in the weekend they would not know what to do, where to go. When I dance, I think about other people. Once you start remembering the people who you lost, or once you start thinking of them like that, you'll know how to dance. Just like that. My late best friend that committed suicide in 2015, Johnny Jr. Kinnock. He was my best friend for 15 years. I ran with him in the Terry Fox Marathon. Last time I saw him, I was proud of him. Never saw him again.
Half-brother.
Before, I was just a quiet guy, shy guy. But now I'm not shy anymore because I want people to be more happier.
Modern.
It's been nearly 2 months since the Chase the Ace lottery came to a dramatic finish in St. John's, and the church that organized the fundraiser has finally crunched the numbers. Even with more than $4 million in prize money paid out, the biggest winner was the church itself. St. Kevin's Parish made a windfall of nearly $6 million. That money will go towards building maintenance and helping a food bank. Companies outsourcing jobs to cheaper offshore operations is nothing new. But tonight, a TD Bank employee is going public, calling out her employer for costing Canadians jobs, but also for using employees overseas to handle customers' personal data and sensitive information. Erica Johnson reports.
Alison Mosher says she and her colleagues used to investigate when TD Visa and debit cards got compromised. But 2 years ago, she says, that work was moved offshore to a multinational company in India.
They see your birth date, your social insurance number, whether you have a checking account, a savings account, a line of credit, a mortgage, investments, Visa cards, anything.
TD wouldn't say how many positions it's created offshore, but said no one in Canada has lost their job.
If you're taking work from Canada that Canadian workers are doing and moving it to another jurisdiction outside the country, there is job loss.
In emails to Go Public today, bank customers said they were disgusted and alarmed, shocked and disappointed the bank is hiring supposedly cheaper labor offshore. But TD isn't the only bank to send work overseas. Scotiabank, RBC and CIBC also do it. BMO wouldn't answer Go Public's questions about outsourcing. According to the Canadian Bankers Association, since 2012, the bank workforce in Canada has been stagnant. But outside Canada, the workforce has grown by 10%.
Our regulator and the legislature should say, hey, enough is enough. We should be able to regulate this in a very transparent way to prevent the banks from doing this in the future.
Question about offshoring of bank jobs?
The federal finance minister wouldn't address a call for legislation to keep banking jobs in Canada. His office saying only in a statement that Canadian financial institutions have the flexibility to outsource certain business functions.
TD Bank has lost at least one job over this offshore controversy. Alison Mosher, who first wrote Go Public, quit this morning, saying she can't support an operation she thinks is wrong. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
All of our Go Public stories come from you. If you've got an idea or an issue you'd like the team to investigate, email gopublic@cbc.ca. Amazon says it has received 238 applications from North American cities hoping to host its second headquarters. The company says it anticipates investing $5 billion in the project and creating as many as 50,000 jobs. It's looking for a city with a population of at least 1 million people and access to an international airport. Amazon says it will announce the winner sometime next year. Before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. CBC News has learned the federal government is set to announce a boost to the Canada Child Benefit as part of tomorrow's fall fiscal update. It's unclear whether it will be a straight bump in the size of the checks or a move to index the benefits to inflation earlier than originally promised. And Canada will get to keep the 2 doomed British ships of the Franklin expedition. Britain has now gifted the wrecks to Canada. The Canadian government says it's committed to joint ownership with the Inuit. And that's the National for this Monday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Wendy Mesley. Thanks for watching.